Okay, today we've got our frame all done, the ends are filled, and we're going to start the middle fill of the frame with a 4mm poly twine. Now why I have the twine tied around the snowshoe like this is simply to let it relax and get some of the kinks out and twists, and it gives it a little bit of a stretch. The other thing that would come on the tail end of this would be the tassels. If we trimmed them all now, we'd tear them to bits doing this fill, because this one in the middle here it's probably going to take 4 to 5 hours to do a full middle fill. So I'm going to get this all off here now. This is quite relaxed. It stays quite straight now because it's been sitting for a while. Nice long runs. If it had just come off of the twine roll, there would be kinks and kinks and twists and twists. So we've secured the 4mm twine over here on the, I always start on the left, just keeps my pattern the same, and it's just done with the small eye in the twine, and it's directly fed through. No big gaudy knots, no weak points. Now this first cord going across here, this first run, is going to be the mainstay of the strength of this and where all the footwork is. So if this was your toe, a single strand here would wear pretty quick. So what we're going to do on this startup is we're going to have at least 3 courses of this twine around here before we secure it and actually start a weave. So I'm just going to keep twisting this up. And this first round of twine is 60 feet. That's not enough for even half of the snowshoe. So I snug this up and gather up all the slack. Now I've got to get a half hitch on this side to secure this together. And if you can see the half hitch coming in, there's going to be lots of tangles early. And what I'll do is when I get this end, I'll double it up and sort of use it like a needle. And that'll just reduce the number of shoulder pulls. Okay, here's the first half hitch on this side. We're going to slide that right back to draw all of this tight. Tension on it, and then I'm going to grab it there. Now I'm going to get some kind of a needle formed from this twine. And it's got to come back. I came under on that side, so I've got to go under to get over here. When I get over to this side, we're going to do another half hitch. Now because we're doing the middle portion, it's pretty evident how quickly we'll get rid of this first 60 feet of twine. Each run is over 16 or 18 inches. Okay. Now I'm back to this side. I've got somewhat the middle of the twine. I'm going to gather all of these cords over against this side of the frame, same as I did there, to secure it. Now in order to draw this half hitch tight, we've got to go around this group of cords once. Now you see that cinched that up fairly tight. The stress on this will become more as the weave tightens up. And don't worry about keeping everything tight as you're progressing through. When you get about halfway done and you actually start the weaves, particularly in the middle, it'll tighten itself up fairly nicely, similar to here. That was quite loose when we got halfway through it. Now, this is the first run over the top beam. And we're going to stress keeping the twists out and keeping it flat here. Now I'll take my end and I'm going to make twist around this cord, and I'm going to go down behind. Again, we started over this one, and that's the theme of all these fills going through the salvage cords or the weaves. You come over one side, you go under on the next. So we're going to run this all through. We'll straighten this up again. I wanted to twist again. And it stays flat for that twist. Now, that's our first run. What we have to do down here is now we have to find the middle. Because similarly to filling these ends, as we concentrated on the top for an orientation, we find the middle, then there's going to be a parallel run on the left, and the next time we'll have a parallel run on the right. If you end up with two on one side, that's the first clue that you've done something wrong. Now how I'm going to progressively find the middle here is I'm just going to count these loops that are formed by the tie-ins to that salvage cord. So this open one here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a, it's got to be a 7 there because that's the knot that finished it off. And I go from this corner 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That one kind of directs me to the middle. And this is the middle of the tail anyway, tail frame. So anywhere is in proximity to that, we can balance out some of these a little bit by pulling them one way or the other to make it even. Again, down through. And pull slow. Because the bigger this twine is, the more it will burn or chafe. Especially that number 18 salvage cord, this nylon. Now we're going to take the twists out. Get my end back. And again, we're under here, and that theme is going to persist. Under here, so we're over there. We've gone down through. Now on the tail section, it's just going to be one twist to straighten that up. The biggest nuisance with this is that long 60-foot piece of string wants a tangle quite often. So we've got one twist here. Now we're going to reposition the frame. We've got one on the left here. Now we're going to put one on the right. And it's easier to pull all this loose twine through before you do any of your twists, so you have a better line of sight. There we go. I'll take the twist out of this run. Now over here we've got two twists because we were going from the left to the right. In this case here, we're going over, but we've got to get back to here on this side. So we'll do the two twists over this top portion, but when we come back, we can't go that way because that will leave this spanned out and it won't let it become straight up and down And that's the intent of that twist. The intent of that twist is to keep these vertical while all these are diagonal. So I've got 2 twists on here, but I'm going to pick this up on the inside. And I'm going to gather all this twine, and then you'll see how that enables us to make that cord tie into the top beam vertical. Okay, check for our twist. Get it flat here. Now I'll pull the first twist tight, and we've got similar to this side. Now I've got to hold that and pull this away. Now I'll gather up all the slack. And when I snug this line back to this direction, it gives me a vertical line here, doesn't impact on these diagonals. Now I'm going to tie into this outside of the frame and come right across here. Now this particular loop is basically 2 half hitches, and this twine, because it's flat and the poly, the nature of it, it binds pretty good when it's tightened up. Alignment, the same as when we were doing the tops, the bottom tie-ins and the top tie-ins. In this case, we're going to have the top and bottoms here because we're really filling a square. We want to keep them equidistant on the side. So first one here is a little critical. That's going to set us up. Now I'll loosen this up so we can see what we did without all that twine in the way. That's our first, we went over and back up on the left. Now we'll get some more twist out. So we went over the top, back under the beam again. Take that little kink out of there. Now, this is quite slack. What we're going to do is we're going to push down on this loop. At the same time, pull here. That'll draw this back and get most of our slack. Pull. And you can see that they're both slipping at different rates. So that's snugged up. Now we're going to go down under this one, and on this side it'll always be coming across under. Now we've caught up to where I had doubled the twine already, because we've got about 4 feet gone here. We're going to come right across to this side, and this knot is the one we're going to use for all the tie-ins on these outside edges of the frame. The tail will always be the single twist as in the top. So we're going to half the twine again. And frequently, as you're going, the twists will move gradually out the twine. So every once in a while, we'll do it after about 2 more runs, we'll stop and give it a drag with our thumb, similar to this, only we'll do the full length of the twine to get most of those twists out. So we came over the beam, and coming up through on one side, get all this out of the way. Now we can see those twists are just sneaking back in. Squeeze all those out. Particularly on the outside the frame. I want to make sure it's flat. So not worried about our alignment yet, we're just worried about getting our knot done. And we're going to go down and come back through the loop that's formed. Again, pull all our twine through. Okay. And squeeze. A little bit of tension here. Now we see we got a little twist there, so we want to make sure that's flat. There we go. Now, we're going to do the same thing here. We got that already. We got our twists all out. I'm going to be pushing down here and pulling on this at the same time. You'll see these stretching and tightening up. There we go. Now, similar to what we did here, we're going to do a wrap around each of these legs before we progress on. Now in this one here, we're going to go back to the top again. But now we're introduced to two more twines, so this would be a weave. This is where the first weave would start. What's going to happen is it's going to go from this corner and this corner. The corners will close in until we get to the middle, and then when we get to the middle we'll stop and we'll get the next snowshoe ready, the same, so that we have the same number of runs. Okay, that's our first weave. And as I mentioned earlier, we're over here and we're going down through, which means we're going to be doing a twist and heading down this direction parallel to here. This 60 foot of twine, I find it comfortable now just because of the numbers of times I've done this. For anybody starting out, you might find it rather cumbersome, and it does want to twist a lot. And you can use shorter pieces and just join them. Now, again, we're going to do a twist around. And the thing with this is we can always go back to the previous leg to say, I'm not sure what I'm doing. Just look at the way your twist is and replicate it. We're going to go around there. Then this leg goes underneath this main beam of twine. Okay, we'll get all that out of the way. There's our twist. And now we're behind. Under here on this end, we're going to be over on this side. If you mess up and miss that transition from under to over, when you get to that initial point down here where these two are met by the third one coming across, you won't be able to do a weave. Now, we need a little bit of distance here, so we're going to look at, there's our middle. We're going to probably have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 runs on each side. So I'm going to come over here, and I'll probably pick up this one right here to give us a little bit of distance apart, similar to this on the top and the sides. That's going to ensure you have an even pattern and you don't have big wide openings here in the snowshoe and everything is all congested in the bottom. So down through again. And you can see the twister starting to gather again. Right here. That's where all that is starting to congest. So we're going to squeeze those all out in a second. We'll tie this one off and go up to the top beam first. But you can see how easily they can come out. got that a little bit secured. Gotta flip this around for my lap again. And again, you can look back here. The twist goes from left to the right underneath. Now you notice we're starting to get a lot more twisting in the twine. We'll finish this run. Now, here's what we have to do, similar to when we fill the small ends, a loop around to keep this run. We can't go up here. It's obvious to see that that's not, we've got to stay parallel with this run. So the only way we're going to do parallel here is if we tie in here. So we're going to go around this cord, and what that also does, this is going to be almost like a figure eight. What it does is it gives us a transition of the twine from this diagonal to get back here so we can come across on another horizontal run, and it also locks these together. As soon as we get all that out of there, time to straighten that out. Now, yeah, we're getting quite a bit of twist. Now, we're around this particular leg. What we have to do now is, in order to finish that figure eight, we're going to come down through this side. Get all that out of the way. Now I'm just going to use a single run this time. So we're around here. We've gone down between these, and we only want to pick up this leg. So here is the end of our figure eight twist. What that's doing is it's locking this one, and because it's gone around this cord, it locks that, but it enables us to get out to the side of the beam for the next run. Now, I'm going to pull this through my thumb and finger to try to eliminate more of that twist, and it's just to prevent the frustration of all the tangles that you're going to eventually get if you don't. So we're just going to pull it through. We're giving it a little bit of stretch, and what we're going to do is we're forcing all those twists out of the twine. There we go. Now we'll double this up again. It just makes it a little more convenient with that. Still, we got quite a bit of twine. So we're back here. This keeps this side vertical. It doesn't impact on us, and it gives us the distance between these to run parallel. Now we're going to go again down over the beam. Get it in place. The other half of our clove hitch. A little bit snug. It's all flat. And again, down here with your thumb and pull here at the same time. And we're done. Now, we're coming over to this side again. Down through. We're under. So we're on this side. We're over. our second loop flattened out. There we go. And this is the same thing all the way around. All we're creating is a loop, and both of these ends are coming through. Check our spacing. Now, in this case, we can't continue going this way. We've gone to the top twice here. We've got 2 runs on this side. We need the second run over here. How we do that is we're going to use this figure 8 again, and we're going to go up and tie into this side. So basically, on these 3 runs, we're replicating this one here. Got to do it on this side. What that's going to do is going to enable us to get down to the bottom beam and have the second vertical run on this side. You should never have, there's only one different run each time. So if there's 2 here, there should be 1 there. If there's 3 here, there should be 2 here. You'll always catch up. So again, I'm going around this leg. That's going to tie these in. And it also helps maintain the gap settings that we're having. So we're going to go down through and around here. Get it flat. So that's tied this one on for a good anchor point, but it's also going to tighten up this to keep the distance apart, separation. Then we're going to go under here because all these cords that are running that way have to be down. So we've got to go down through there to get under, similar to we did right there. Now we'll snug that up, and that locks these together. And it also prevents this from going up or down. Now we're going to turn it around again. And we want the tie-in down here, about the same distance. So we're going to go down through here, over the selvage cord. Flatten it all out. Okay, we're going to do 1 twist over. And then stay underneath, same as here. Around again. Check our spacings. Now we're going to go down through over the selvage cord here. Okay, we've got down through here. We're doing our second run on the right-hand side of the front beam. And this line still doesn't want to cooperate, even after we took out all the twists. So, again, we're down through, but we don't want this diagonal to be off. So we've got to do the twists. Now I'll run the whole loose end through first, just to get it ready. And it is getting easier as the string gets shorter, obviously. Okay, we're going to take this leg and make sure it stays straight. Get it flat. Now we want to make that twist flat. And similar to this one here, in order to keep this particular portion of the run vertical, we've got to pick it up on the back side of here. And this run now starts to weave because we're trying to get down here and we're introducing the third twine. We're going to go under here. And over here. And we'll pull this through so you have more clarity. And as you progress and the weaves increase, that's when you're going to your work is going to be slowed down. The progress is going to be a little bit slower. So we came under this one. There's our intersection of the two. Basically, we're looking for that little X. We're going to go down through this one. We're under here, up through. We're going to bring all that through and we're going to tie it in on the side out here. The most important thing to remember is that this figure 8 lock-in is going to be every second course on this side. And the same thing as this progresses here, that's going to be every second course. Now when we tie in here, we're going to cross over there again. And that's where we're going to change. We've got 2 vertical runs on each side now. Well, we're going to end up starting the third one. So, double this up. A little bit hard to see the clarity when we're doing this part, but we'll get it all out of the way. Again, it's the same loop that we've used all along here on these, wherever these two cross. Get the twists out. Back up through. Okay, now we're ready to tighten this one. Now, this a little interesting point here. Notice these little burrs on the twine. When this is factory wound, you'll get these little things sometimes in it. If it was quite long and it was affected all across here, I would cut it out and join the twine. And these little ones here, all we're going to do is make these disappear real fast with this lighter. So we've clamped up twine up. Now one more there. There we go. So now we're ready to come across to this side. Okay. And if we notice, the runs coming from the left are all underneath these diagonals. So we're going to go down through here to get underneath. Give that a little tension. I'm going to get back over here. Carry in. And we're going to do that loop again. Get all this out of your way so you can see. flatten it out a little. There's our little loop. Check our spacing. It's all flat. Okay, our tension. Now, in the previous run, we went down here. So now, we're going to do that single little twist around here. Now, we're going up this way. But we've got an intersection of two twines. So this is our third one. And there's our little, I'll call it the X, where we got to weave over here and over here. And we're going to have to pick up this one. Again, we're going to go under and over, under this diagonal, over the straight runs. And I'll open this up in a second. And again, you don't want to pull the string through every single layer of the weave, because you probably end up being 100 hours filling a pair. So we're going to try and gather all this through. As your weaves get longer, just do it gradually, 2 or 3 sections at a time, and don't pull it fast, especially if it tightens up with a twist or something. Now here's what we do, a little maintenance of spacing. Make sure this is flat. And now we're going to come up here. Now I'm going to pick up, we can do this, give that a little adjustment. I'm going to pick up right over this join here, but always on top of the selvage cord, because what you're doing is you're helping keep this pressure down as opposed to going under it. And we're going to do one twist. Now this, in the case here, I'm going to do the twist while I have this small end in my hand, because it's just a lot simpler with the rest of that twine. Now I got the twist around that leg, and if I look back here at the previous run from this side, I've got to go underneath. So let's put all that down there. Now all I'm going to do is pull this single leg through. It's very difficult pulling through your weaves, two twine at it, the double twine at the same time. Get a lot of friction. So there's our twist, but we can't go over the top. You see, these are all these diagonals are underneath. We're going to sneak that back through there. And our distancing is fairly good. We'll give it a little flip. And now we're back to the bottom. Okay. So now, in order to keep our distancing about the same, and you can notice this one has slipped through all the work we're doing. You can do adjustments all the time while you're progressing it, and as it gets tighter, they'll stop moving on you. So I'm going to pick up this guy right here. I think, or let's see, maybe there. See what that looks like. So that's pretty good distance. Now you notice this one's getting a little bunched. After we get this one finished, we'll run that over a little just by using this tool, so that they're approximately the same distance apart, as long as we don't start affecting the spacings on this weave. So again, around once. Check our distancing. Now we're going to go up to the top. Pull all this out of the way. Now for the ease of filling, I can double this up because there's no weave in this particular run. I said earlier, every second run we're going to do this figure eight to lock these in. Well, that was one. It's tied there. Here's the second. So we're going to tie in here because this can't slip. This is secured in three points around here, behind this, and over on this beam. So that's a good anchor point. If we anchored to this one, we'd pull everything. This one, we can't. So again, I'll double it up. Pull it all through and get our flat twine going again. And we're starting to get some more twists, so we're probably going to have to end up cleaning that out. Okay, we're around the anchor point, similar to there. Now we've got to get around this guy. And in order to keep this diagonal parallel, we're going to pick it up here. Okay, so our anchor point, we've gone down through here to close that up. Now we're going to form the other half of our figure eight. We'll get our loop on here. Okay, check our spacings. Again, push on the loop and pull on the leg. Now, this one's the easy one. We're just going to go underneath, as these ones are. All this diagonal is on the top. These horizontals are underneath. Down over. Again, we're going to loop this side. Get all that out. Tension here. Push and pull at the same time. Now, we've got 3 on this side, but we've only got 2 here. So we've got to get over here with another run. And I said, whatever we do on this side, we replicate on this side, each leg as we go. This one was that figure 8, so we're going to have to do that here. And what that's going to do is it's going to enable us to get down to the bottom beam and come up and put the 3rd run on this particular side. So this 60-foot piece of twine is getting pretty short now. What's remaining? Again, that anchor point is solid. This one wouldn't be, because it would float. Flatten it out. First leg of our 8. Back up through here. Get that much secured. You can see how it closes up. A little bit of tension. But this diagonal leg has got to be underneath. Same as there. So we're going to go down through one more time, and that finishes our figure 8 and locks all this together, especially when we put a little bit of tension on it when we get down there. There we go. Cleaned up a little. One twist, and we've got to get underneath again. Just pay attention to what you've done on the previous legs. So it's pretty fail-safe. These are all underneath here, and these ones coming this way are all over the top. Now I'm going to go down through and ensure you're over the salvage cord, not between it and the beam. Flatten it out. Now again, the alignment's not there. We want this one to be vertical like here. So we're going to do our 2 twists. 1, 2. Get it out of the way. What I'm doing here is pushing it over, making sure it's still flat, and then finishing these twists with all these big fingers in the way is difficult, but there we go. So we got one. There's the second one. And again, in order to keep this diagonal parallel here and make this leg vertical, we're going to lock it in underneath this main cord here. There we go. So I've got that twisted here. Now we're going to be doing a full weave down through here. So back here we only had 2. Now we've got, well, 3 and this last leg. Okay, we've got the back twist off of this main run of cords, and we're going to do the weave down to this side. Again, use just a single layer of the twine. I'll probably introduce 2 or 3 weaves. Again, that's it. Can't slip there. And what a lot of people do is make the mistake of coming out here. I see an X there. If you do that, you'll change the whole directional run. So mistakes are fairly easy to see unless you just missed a leg on a weave. So we'll take that back and we're going to go here. Just use the single leg. Keep that out of your way. You want this one, very important, this one stays flat. Doesn't matter about the loose end. Okay. Now before we pull the loose end through, we'll give this a little snug pull. That straightens this out here and it tightens up its grab around that cord. So we're going to pull this through slowly because those weaves are getting longer now. Okay, we'll double it up. Do our outside frame loop. Again, one loop over here. And we'll lock this one down. Again, thumb and pull. Oh, I see a little few burrs there. Let's get rid of those. Okay, we're all tightened up here. This run, obviously there, can't stay over the top. We've got to get it down through. We'll keep our double twine, and we'll get our loop on this side. Go. It's all nice and flat. Get our spacing and tighten it up. Now, this last run was down to the bottom beam so that we evened up 3 vertical runs, 3 vertical runs. Now, we're going to start the fourth one. This one went that way and this one goes that way. So, we'll do our twist. And you can see the weaves are increasing again. We're over the top here, so we're going to get under. Get that out of the way. So here's our first weave. There's that X. Get all those in. It's nice and loose. The main thing again is keeping this main run that we're putting in place, the weave, flat. And before we start pulling the loose leg, just pull this so that we can get rid of those little wrinkles. Now, it might want to come up a little. All we got to do is just give it a little flick back with our thumb. This keeps these equidistant. Now we can pull this loose leg through. Okay, we're back up to the top. Gonna do a little alignment here. If I usually start on one side going over the weave and the salvage cord, I'll try to continue it and just space these up as I need to as we go along. This side here, you notice it's a little bit different because it has a twist. That was impacted when we finished filling the toe to make sure that our patterns were even. Now, okay, we're going to do our twist, keep it flat, and as here, underneath the back. Now we want to keep our distance the same again. So we're probably going to go right down here. See what it looks like when we get it through. Now we can't see if the spacing is good there because we haven't got our twist in. So that looks pretty good. Now, again, up here, that was our first 8. 1, 2. There's the next one. 1, 2. So we're going to go around. Again, the bottom of that 8 is always the anchor point, that twisted 8 knot. Get it flattened out. And we'll get to the outside beam, or frame, excuse me, and do our twist. And our loop. little bit of tension. Close it up. Now we're going to come over here. And we're going to do our same loops this side. Making sure it's flat. Again. Okay, we've got 4 over here, 3 over here. If we went this way, there'd be 5. That won't work. So what we have to do again is same thing over here. There was our figure 8 twist. There's our figure 8 twist. So this is our anchor point. We're going to go down here, and that's going to introduce the 4th leg here. Now, with this piece of twine, it's not going to get up here and be able to get back to an edge. Whenever you join this in a full middle pattern, you want your knots to be, or the burns or laps, somewhere in around the edge here, so that they can be hidden a little bit, and it gives them a little more reinforcing. Out in the middle, it would be a big, gaudy, sharp point sticking straight up at you. Could be under your heel, under your ball of your foot. So we don't want any joins out in the main center area of the weave. We want all of our joins back out on the edges. So I'm going to use this enough to get the figure 8 twist in. That's our anchor point, because that's the last of that one there. Our tie-in. Again, we see this, a little snug. There's the first half, and we've got to get underneath. Now you can see if I did go this way, the knot is going to end up there somewhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the back here. I want to cut this one off. Right about there. Now we're going to burn this end in preparation for doing a splice. And again, you want to burn it back so it fuses well throughout, and then wet fingers and smooth it out. So now we're ready to join. Now the initial piece here was 60 feet. The next run, because we get into a significant more weaving, as we can see here, it's building in quickly. And then when we get to the middle, that's going to compound it. We need to have a shorter piece of twine just to make it manageable. And then that first 60 was there. My next run is usually around 30 feet. So, this end here, let's check it out. It's a little bit sharp. We'll smooth this up. And we'll get the other end prepared. Always, always wet your fingers. Okay. Now, similar to how we just introduced an eye, and we did splice back here on the green twine, we're going to join it on here. So the first thing we have to do is get an eye in the new twine end. So there you go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that down over here, hopefully. And sometimes it's a little contrary. You get one little fiber and it just doesn't want to penetrate. Okay, so get my fingers out of the way. I slip this eye down over this small end. That's half of the splice. Now I've got to introduce a hole in this end. That'll stretch for a second. Look at this end. That's through there. Now we're going to pull all this through and make sure this stays flat. We don't want to twist down here, so I'm going to hold that flat and pull this through. And then we give it a good tug. And that's our splice. Now, we've got to go down through for this run to go like all the rest. And what you'll see is that the knot is going to be sort of behind this cord. Well, that knot will be picked up by the next figure 8 twist when we get back to this side. So it'll be protected a little bit. The knot would be the splice or the knot, whichever we want to call it, would be a weaker point, but those ends, once they're fused like that, they're pretty darn tough. Okay, slip this all underneath. To come down through here again. Now you notice the middle is, we're getting close to coming in where we're going to have to start the weave in the middle too. Now this one we haven't stretched it, we didn't have it on the frame, so you can see the significant difference in the tangling and twisting. So once I get this first leg tied in, we're going to try and straighten it out a little bit, just to eliminate the frustration. And still yet another one. Okay. So we get all that twist just right there. Pull this all up through here. We're under. And we've got to go over here. Now before we try to tie this into the top beam, we're going to run it through the thumbnails eliminate some of that twist and give it a little stretch. And you'll see the twist is progressing all the way through the end. A lot of individuals will take multiple cords of twine and just tie it up in a room or a ceiling or a wall and put a little bit of weight on it and leave it there for a day or so. That has a tendency to take a lot of the twists and give it a tiny little stretch. It doesn't stretch very much. but it'll help force out some of that twisting. Okay, we're back at the top. And basically, this will be our 6th run, if you want to call it that. 1, 2, 3, 4, oh, 7, excuse me. 7 runs. So everything, when we tie this in, on both sides of the snowshoe, should be the same. Okay, 2 twists around, and then we're coming back into here. We'll move that out for clarity. Go. Now, we'll finish this weave down through here. The weave's going to be a little bit slower because we just introduced another 30 feet. But again, only do it with a single leg. Down, under, up, and over. And again, we're just picking up these where the X's are formed. With this bigger twine, it's a lot easier to see the weave pattern as opposed to the smaller twine in the ends. A little tug to keep that main one straight, and now this is getting longer, so if it does tighten up, which this one is almost wants to, instead of trying to pull the whole thing through, just grab a 1 or 2 loop in and take a portion of it through first. There we go. Then we're not going to introduce any excess friction to the twine. Okay, we'll get our loop and we'll cross over. Still wants to twist a little. Okay. Our distances are pretty good. Push and tuck here. Okay, we're going underneath again, coming this way. And we have to get over all these ones. Do a little flip. Snug her up. Okay. So now we're going to do a little check. We didn't miss any weaves. Our spacing is fairly good. The alignment here is good on these. The diagonals are basically parallel. These verticals are all good. If we think like this one here might be a little wider than this one, because we want to be symmetrical, we can just give them a little pinch, and there you go. Now, at this point, we've done 3 of the figure 8 twists on each side. And we're going to progress through keeping the distances in here about the same till we get somewhere to the middle where we want to determine how big the foothold is going to be. This run here is going to have to go that way because we just came down this way, so we're changing direction. We're all equal here in parts, so we'll do one more twist up through here and tie this one in. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us some idea of where our middle is going to be. And the concentration of the numbers of runs, we don't want to bunch them or change the parallel running, so looks like we're going to need 1 or 2 more through here. Now here we can see that this is working well to kind of conceal that knot. The next figure 8 will just engulf it. We'll get this all through. And we'll do this weave up through. Again, the first row of X's all through here. And keep that running cord, that running free end, nice and loose. Okay. Now that we got a lot of the twist out, it's easier to pull this free leg through. Give it a little check for spacings. And again, we're going to pick up over top of this weave, the same as we did back here, outside the selvage cord. Twist and then get down underneath. Now we've got to follow this all back. We're going to, this opportunity up here to transition from under the cords to over, it's getting pretty small. Tension. Now, that pretty well sets up our middle. So what we're going to do is we're going to tie in down here. Again, our distances are pretty good. We'll get our twist. And now we're going to introduce the next figure 8 twist on this anchor, because that's the bottom of the last one. And we said 2. There's 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, this anchor leg Start our figure 8 twist. I'm going to have to straighten that out again. Okay. That was the first portion. We'll come back down through. And again. Always remember to come around this leg to finish the figure 8 twist, so that we don't tie those together like that. Okay, we're all flat. Check our spacing and give it some tension. Okay, now we're at the transition of the 2 diagonal runs and a horizontal one here in the middle. So we're going to have to start a weave soon. What we'll do in the next step is we will take the other snowshoe in this set that we've already passed the middle, and we'll do a horizontal run count to make sure before we tie this in, whether it's here or over here, that we have the same number of runs. That will impact on the foothold weaves and just the aesthetics of the snowshoe. Okay, now we're about halfway through the filling of this snowshoe. We've got the questionable last horizontal run to make sure that it's in the middle, similar to this one that we've already advanced. So what we have to do is find out how many horizontal runs in this one so that we have the same number in here. So what I've got to do is I've got to count, and I'll start from here. And where the lines are, obviously, it's easy to count them. But then, for the continuation here where it's not filled, we've got to count these X's, because that's every one of those is going to be an intersection of another horizontal line. So in this particular case here, where we've already filled the middle, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So we've got to have 17 horizontal runs in this one here. So we'll put this aside and we'll check this one here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I need 2 more runs. So what I've got to do here is I've got to adjust my spacings on both sides to make sure that I can get 2 more runs in here. It's starting to get pretty tight. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to progress this one. Get all this crazy string out of the way. And I'm going to come through here again. I'm not going to start that weave yet. See how the line wants to be contrary when you're in a hurry. Okay, so now we're going to just continue the loop here, and all we're doing here is we're just going to make sure that both these snowshoes are going to be exactly the same. Not that anybody would notice. So now, we just finished off with the diagonal one here. So now we're ready for 1, 2. We're ready for that figure 8 twist on that left hand side. First layer it down through here. And you can see what this figure 8 twist is doing. It's picking up and even concealing this join that we did, the splice in the line. Protected away here, not out in the area under your feet. Now we're going to tie in the bottom. Get this back here. The more you get done, the more you got to throw this thing around. Now, what we'll find is we'll cross up here for the next diagonal to this side. 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're coming this way. But now our middle is joined. So we've got to pick up. We're underneath these diagonals here. And we've got to be over the horizontal. So that's where our weave starts, right here. And I'll just pull the first one through, because it's only going to be one weave. So now we can see our weave. That is the middle of the fill. It might get a little bit bunched up, but we'll even this up as we're filling now, to keep the sides all parallel. Now I'm going to tie this one in on the top. Okay, we get our twist in behind, under this cord, to keep it parallel with the rest of them. And now we do our weave parallel here to get back there. Now, see, the weaves are getting quite a bit longer, so we want to take this through more frequently now. Okay, we give it a little tension. Push them over a little. And now we'll just tie this in on the outside. Okay, make sure it's flat. There we go. Okay, a little tension. And right there, we're going to stop. Now that we're in the middle, there's going to be weaves on all three sides and both of these corners. And basically, it's just repetition of every alternate one goes up here, and then every next one goes down here until this bottom is filled in. So down here, we're going to need another one on this corner and another one on this corner to make sure we're the same as the other snowshoe. The repetition takes you paralleling these till we get into close to where we need to decide on the size of the foothole. Now, for this exercise, I won't advance this because it's the continuous repetition of what we've been doing so far. What I'm going to do is pick up the other snowshoe, and if you see here, we've got 5 vertical runs on each side. On this one, we've got 6, because I've made the determination that this is the area I want left for the foothole. So the difference when we come up the side is that it's the same weave, it's the same figure 8 twists here, and the same diagonals. We come over this main cord that we created when we started. So that is the only difference now to complete the snowshoe. Now this one here will go down and it'll tie in there, and again it'll come up and do the figure 8 twist, and it progressively will spread outward to finish the weaves. When we do get all of these fits, and there's going to be 1, 2, 3, there's only 4 more runs to go around this to fill this snowshoe. But because the weaves are so much longer, it gets slower, and you had to be more careful pulling the twine. When we eventually get these 4 filled, we'll come back with the tie-off for this cord when it's going to end right in the middle here, and how we can seal that knot. And in the last portion that we will do in the next session will be the wrap and the extra lashing that goes around the foothole that protects these 2 outside cords and this main cord that we created of 3 runs. If this wears out, the snowshoe comes apart. If this breaks, the snowshoe comes apart. So that's why we put a protective wrap around here that gives a little flat area for the snowshoe to provide your foot, your moccasin, or a boot or sneaker, whatever you're wearing. And it also reinforces this cord here, because that's where you get a lot of the chafing from toe, boots, whatever, or your harnesses themselves. So we'll stop right here with this one, and the next time we pick up, we'll have these completed to do the tie-off, and we'll do the foothole. Okay, we left off yesterday where we had 3 or 4 runs, basically follow the parallel lines to close in the web. And now we're going to tie off on the main cord at the foothole. Now here, all I'm going to do is tie off 2 half hitches because we don't want a big gaudy knot. 1, 2, and I'm going to put a 3rd one on there just to keep the string to the bottom of the run. Now, we don't want to tie a big knot here because that knot will be right in the middle of your foot, and you will feel it even with a big winter boot on. So what we're going to do is we're going to sneak it through these to lock it and then burn off the end. So all I'm going to do is find the hole in here, and take this end that we'll kind of point this end with a little melt. There we go. Let that cool. So you can see it's going to be a little bit easier to squeeze through that hole when it's sharpened off like that. That's pretty hard. Now we'll give that a little stretch and a little encouragement push, and we'll pull that through. So that's nice and flat. There's no big knot that's going to impact on your foot. And I'll put it through the next one. Same thing. Okay. Now, we're going to go to the back side where you can see that it's laid out nice and flat. And we're going to nip this off, and then we're going to burn that back so it fuses with this. So we don't have to tie a knot because it'll mushroom and stop itself from being able to slip. And there's no strain on that anyway, it's just a loose end. Lots of water. So we see that's nice and flat and it's all fused in. So now that the fill is done, two things we have left to do, or three things we have left to do, is take off this hold down cord for the back, because this one is finished. We won't take the front one off until we put the wear stretch in around this foothold. And then we'll trim the tassels. So this one is finished with respect to the foothold. So we have to put this separate piece in. And what that does is it gives us a wear factor. So as you use your snowshoe, if you wore this cord down, the snowshoe comes apart. What this is a wear cord, and it strengthens the foothold also and gives an extra bit of friction wear here for the boot, because that's where your foot is going to be hinging in all the time. So what we'll do now is we'll put this one aside and we'll load a string on here to do that foothold. Now for that full weave, we're going to need about 24 feet of cord, and this is still the 4mm twine. Again, we're going to join it the same way, just the eye. Like that. I'm going to bring this up through here. Now why we bring it up through there is so that the point will lay down when we join it up. So this one came up through here, that one comes up through there, and when I go through from this direction, I'll pull this all through. Again, watch for the big twisting. You can see how this lays down and it doesn't protrude up so that it would come through the actual lashing that we do. If we had it the other way around and we came through from the other side, this will be sticking straight up. That would be just something to be a nuisance for your foot. So we go up through it so that it lays down. Now I'm going to double this up, and what I'm doing is I'm staying on this cord here. We're going to put some strengthening runs I usually use 3. And these ones you want flat. The second one, again up through the same spot in the bottom. And the third one. Now we're going to tie off up here on the top. What that does is it's going to enable us to go all the way across here, do a similar pattern, and then start to weave. So primarily our string is going to start here, where we just looped it. We're going to go all the way across here. We're going to move back, and it's going to finish up over here. So we're able to achieve it with one cord. Now a lot of people that make smaller wooden and or steel frame snowshoes don't put this wrap in. And it causes a really early failure of the webbing, particularly here and on these two legs, because it wears out. So that's tightened up. Now I'm going to come across in the middle of the foothold beam. And go behind. And then in through here. I would check that for flatness. Right here. And we're back here. Now, we're going to do the same thing here, 3 runs. You notice I'm keeping a little bit of pressure here. Check it for flatness again. We're starting to get some twisting. Don't want that here. Okay, down again. Check this one for flatness. And we're going to go up with the third one. This run will be our last one. We're going to secure this one down on the bottom. Get the twist out of it. I'd have to run this one out. Okay. Now we're going to tie that off down here. Again, a little bit of tension because this is our last run. So all I'm going to do is 1/2 hitch here, down through. I'll go down through on the left because the lacing around this has got to go from the right to the left so that I finish up and the string wants to go that way. If I did it the opposite direction, the string would want to go that way. So now it's just a matter of doing a full wrap over this cord run. We'll get a couple wraps and then we've got to pull this all through because it will twist up crazily. Keep them nice and tight. This finger is my tension guide as I change over. Okay, we're going to pull that much through. You can see the twister starting to compound up on that end. You always want to keep a little tension here. You don't want this to get slack. A few more. And as we cinch that down, you can see that it's really drawing these all tight. Now on this last one, I'm going to keep the tension back here. Because what I want to do is introduce a 1/2 hitch on this line that's going to, number one, tighten this down, prevent this from slipping back, but also introduce a string for that direction to go back over to that side. So I come up over and I just go through this. Get all the string through before you do the final tensioning on it. Keep it there, full, and then, so it wants to go that way. The direction of that pull is going to make it nice and easy to go there. If we did the wrap the other way, this string would be coming back this way. That wouldn't work very well. Now we're going to go back over on this one from the bottom because we're in the back. And here we're going to introduce another 1/2 hitch. And I'll just pull this all through and give some clarity on it. So this one is on the back. Here's our 1/2 hitch. We're going to try to position it up over this string here before we draw it down. That's going to cinch this one in and all these together. And then we start a wrap on this side. Again, maintain a good pressure on this cord. Don't release it. So I'm just kind of transferring it between fingers. And then when I want to pull this slack back through, the tension is here on my left hand. Two more wraps. Now, similar to what we did up here, We're going to make a final wrap and come through with a half hitch, and that secures this whole side also. So keeping my tension here, I'm going in behind one more time, and I'm going to come through to create that one hitch. This case here, I want it to lay down in this little gap. So I'm going to keep that tight there. So that gives us the two side strengthening points for the foothold. Now we've got to start the weave across here. And we're going to do it 4 courses deep, similar to this one. And then we'll just weave in 2 and 3 at different intervals till we get over to this side. And again, we'll do a needle eye hole through here so that we don't have a big gaudy knot. So my first one is on the first cord, and that's 1 or 2 wraps, and those are all 2, 3, 2, 2, 2 all across. So I'll do something similar. As long as we fill in the voids. This is a little bit slower because you can only do one at a time because of the requirement of holding the tension and getting the right spacing. So we're on the second course run. This one looks like it needs to get 3 before we run down to the third course. And this can be done in a variation of ways. We could have gone all the way down here and made it square going across. I don't find that that's any advantage. Just a little more time to do, but it doesn't provide any more wear area because most of the wear area is in the middle here anyway, not down behind here. It's usually on the cords. 3, snug, snug. Now we're down to the fourth course. 1, 2, 3, 4. Same as on the previous snowshoe. Then after the fourth, we drop back to the third. And we alternate that till we get across with some facsimile of the previous one. Some people will do the wear component here with a different color twine. A green, in this particular case a green would have been nice. And we go back up to the third course again. Okay, now we'll continue this. We're back up from the fourth row to the third row. We're going to continue our wrap. Just make sure you keep it tight. And by also doing this, we're going to make it a lot easier for the boot there. So we're down to the 4th course again, and 3, and we're probably going to sneak one in there. What we're trying to do is we're trying to end up with the same number as on the other half of this pair. And on the drop backs to the 4th course, on this one here, we've got 4. It's a little wider here. The footholes are approximately the same thing, so it should be well. Okay. Now for this one here, we've had 3 runs. Got to get the 3rd one in. And our 2nd run might be a little bit shorter. Now we started off over here with a single run, so now we've got to get in there. It's going to be a little snug, so we're going to open it up a little with the awl, like that. Gives support for the string. Now, the next one, we're going to come around and we're going to take it over to this corner for a 1 wrap. And that covers this initial weave up, so we don't get a wear on that. All we're trying to do is protect the main components of the snowshoe so we don't get a premature failure on it. We're going to give it 1 more tug here. Now, here, we're going to come right back and do the same thing. We're going to do a half hitch because we want the string to come this way. We're going to try to sneak it through this whole setup so that we don't have a big knot. Now I'm going to turn the snowshoe over. And I'll pull that loop back because what we want to do is we want to make a passage right through this whole setup here. So we've got the awl through there. It's pretty clear. Got a couple of strands there. Now I got it so that it's actually going through all the loops and not picking up any fiber, so to stop it from going through. Now we're going to needle off the end of this twine, similar to the finish. We don't want any burrs on this one because it will really hang up. Let it cool down a little bit. Now what we're going to do is we're going to try to pass this right through there. It's not going to make it on its own probably, but with the awl we get a little push. I'll turn it over, and the point is right there. So we're going to try and hook that out. We'll get most of it through here first so you can see what we're doing. Now I'm going to turn it back over, and we want to align this so our finished knot is up in the top. I'm going to tension that, and I'm going to pull this remaining loop right through. Now, I just have to take these Now we're going to melt this back so that it melts back to this cord. And if we ever got to replace this, we can cut it anywhere along here or here and unravel it and then replace it. So that little mushroom melt is going to prevent any of this from coming off. And inadvertently, what most people do, if their snowshoes wear out here, they trash them and say, I'll get a new pair. They don't repurpose. And with this particular advantage here, or even if you cut it, a lot of fellas will cut your strings with their axes or chainsaws. The frames will last. I've had frames last over 28, 30 years. As long as they're not left in foul weather, rain, excessive heat in the summer. Some fellows will throw their snowshoes in the back of their Comet, leave it parked in the yard for the whole summer, and they go out in the fall and they wonder why their snowshoe goes like this. Well, the excessive moisture that it absorbs from rains and that in the summer, and then the high heats with the tension of the webbing will cause them to just completely twist. So this is all about being able to repurpose, and or if these go, because they will eventually chafe. Now, what we have left to do is when we started, after we put the salvage cord and tassels in, we put this hold down strip in a different color. And now you can see that it's apparent. If we'd have used a green twine or a blue twine, we'd say, okay, don't cut the wrong one. Now, in any case, we can take this out by undoing a small half hitch over here. We're going to take out the one in the bottom. And then the only outstanding issue is to trim some tassels. So first I'm going to take this back one out. And again, when I close this off, this is temporary. You got to flip it around a little bit, get it all started, and it's pretty easy to get out. So we'll proceed with that. Remove all these red twines off of both pairs, and then when we come back, we'll do the tassel trimming and have a little closing statement. Okay, now that we've got all these red cords removed that was temporarily holding this down while we were doing all the webbing, we're going to trim up the tassels. Most people want them on their snowshoes, so all I'm doing is basically cutting off the top loops. Do a rough cut first. Don't do this in your living room because you'll get beat up for it. Makes a heck of a mess. And I'll trim off the last one for the bulk. Now we'll finish some of these up. Good sharp scissors, and just carefully cut the tassel so that you got a nice little ball, but don't go in tight to the base, because if you go in tight to the base, you might have a chance at nipping this salvage cord where it has been wrapped around these to make them form in the ball. Snowshoe a little turn. Lots of movement. Another little turn. Finish this corner. So, that's primarily all there's to it. Have a little look, make sure we got no big burrs sticking up. And we'd proceed to do the final trimming on all of them. And with your imagination, we'll say that these are all trimmed, and there's your finished product.